y'all? This your man, Paulie Rhyme. You are now tuned in to the Paulie Rhyme podcast. This is episode 7, part 3. And so if you are not familiar with these, I do these in 3 sections. First section is the artist section. Second section is the educator section. And then the third section is the parent section. But you'll see these or listen to these as separate sections. So episode 7, 8, and 9, part 3. And if this is your first time tuning in, just to give you a little background, my name is Paul, also known as Paulie Rhyme, and I live in Handa, which is a small city outside of Nagoya, Aichi, which is the 4th largest city in Japan, and closer in terms of feeling like a Cleveland or Chicago or even a Detroit. Lots of industry and car companies, lots of factories. It has, Nagoya is pretty fast, but where I live at is pretty much more like the suburbs. So I would say it's more of a less touristy version of Japan, more direct people, more different experiences, and I enjoy it. So we've been here about 9 years. Again, I live in Honda, which is my wife's hometown. And then prior to living in Japan, I lived in the Bay Area for 11 years. And then from there, before there, I lived in Cleveland. And so, yeah, this episode, as far as being an artist, we're going to talk a lot about organizing a show. So I just had a show, and I'm going to be going through my notes as well. I just had a show in Honda, as well as, I do events. So I perform in events. I perform in my band, just like this show we did in Honda called the Jazzy Handa event, as well as perform with DJ or solo. And so just to give people more details on how organizing a show, and then from there, asking more questions, and I'll get more into it. So yeah, so make sure if you haven't liked or subscribed, please also, I think it's important to, share these different types of perspectives. A lot of times you'll hear a similar perspective coming from people who are either Japanophiles or people who have a certain interest in Japan. And while I do have an interest in Japan because my family is here, it's different, right? And also being an artist in Japan was not something that I had initially looked to. But due to different circumstances, and you can check out previous episodes or future episodes where I get into how actually, moving to Japan and becoming an artist, and then being an artist in Japan. So, yeah, I think that if I got to say one thing that's really important, and I'm going to hit a couple topics, is that you need to build a community. And so my first thing before I even did shows was really just to participate in the different activities that go on in Honda. So Honda has a lot of different activities, whether they're family activities, whether, a host of activities, just like any other city. And there's a bar called Yamikudo. Homie Makoto is the manager there. I met him and the crew that DJs there. And we did the Saturday night parties for a couple years. But when I first got here 9 years ago, that was kind of the first place. So if you can find a base and you can find somewhere that you can meet like-minded people, I would say that's kind of where you build from. Don't just kind of jump in doing shows. If you're on tour, it's different, right? So I came here on tour as well. I met someone, a promoter. They had a company. I was able to do a bunch of shows around Japan. But so that's something, if you're interested in, leave a comment or question, and I'll get into that more detail. But as far as living here and doing art, you either gonna get booked, similar any other place, or you're gonna organize shows. I obviously like everyone else get booked, but sometimes I organize shows just because I have the ability to do that, and I have experience doing that back home, and a lot of that is very similar, which, building a community and connecting with the local community and area community is important. The other thing I would like to say don't, try to keep your ego in check, right? So you working with local rappers, you working with local DJs, other promoters. It's good to kind of get the lay of the land and see how people do things, whether you agree or not, whether you're trying to do that. And just like for this event, sound is always something that people have to think about. So we definitely had to bring the sound in, which obviously I got the homies, so I was able to use the sound that the homies use when they do events, which is in the area, but that's just because I built that relationship. And the person who runs the venue or owns the venue and runs the venue, they're all super cool. I've been to that spot a bunch of times. So it's good to not just show up like, boom, yeah, I want to do this. There's other places that I'm trying to organize events or do things, and it's been a little bit more difficult to make that, get in there. Of course, I don't speak as much Japanese, so probably would help if I spoke more Japanese. But this is also a good opportunity for people who don't speak Japanese or don't speak a lot of Japanese, but still trying to get their art out. Just take a chance, go in there, speak what you can, do what you can, and Google Translate it as much as you can. And as you get better at Japanese, things will get easier for you. And I'm sure people will have different experiences based on their Japanese level. But I don't speak that much Japanese. My wife speaks Japanese. So if you also have a person who can help you kind of mediate those situations, then you should look into that. So also, like when I'm talking about organizing shows, I think that you have to go into it with the idea that you're going to invest into the place. The show might go well. This event went really well that we had. I think overall, what we expected and what happened was like right there. So we didn't have like a huge crowd. We wasn't expecting a huge crowd, but we was expecting a crowd. So I've done other events in Nagoya where I was expecting a big crowd and I got nobody. And this event definitely had double, triple, turnout that I've had at events in bigger cities. So something that I learned in Cleveland when you're organizing shows, it's not always doing things in the big city is going to give you the results. So sometimes like that's why we pull back. And that's why I was like, oh, let me just try to do a event in Honda. Also, I've done a couple shows and DJ here regularly, just so the people came out to support and because they trust me and they know me and we built that bridge. So if you are an artist who lives outside of a major city or lives in a suburb, don't be afraid to just do an event where you are. You might get 10 people, you might get 15, you might get 30, you might get 100. But then again, if you do it in a bigger city where you don't live or you haven't put in a lot of work, you might get no people. And yeah, you did it there. That was cool, but I don't think that's the point of spreading your art or spreading your music. Another thing I think that was good about this particular one. So I was able to perform a week or two before at the homie Tetsu. So he turned 60, he had a birthday party. So he invited me out, and that's because I have that relationship. He had dancers and DJs. He was at a bigger spot, so I was able to perform, showcase what I was doing, even though I wasn't with my band, because the show that I did, Jazzy Handa, that we did at Sake Bar, Little People, so shout out to them too. Make sure I get that out there. That event, we organized that event, but a week or two before at the other spot, it's like a bar and grill. It used to be a Brazilian spot. I can't think of the name. I have to put that in there later, so check that. But we were able to do that there. I was able to perform, just do like 15 minutes. So promo yourself, get out there. Don't feel like you can't. You might do it differently. Like you might do acoustic. You might bring the guitar. You might just bust MPC, but get out there and do some shows, do some promo, however you can to build for your event. And on top of that, I was able to DJ a couple spots. So I pressed up some flyers. And Japan is different that way. And you definitely need to have some handbills, flyers, posters. It's still kind of old school that way. It's good to get online and do that things, but that can be expensive when you're promoting. So, go to the barbershops, go to the beauty salons, go to the local, bars, go to the clothing stores, wherever people are, congregating or coming through. And then if you do get a chance to promote, make sure you have your flyers, because I definitely passed out flyers at the other show, and some of those people came. And then also, too, it matters what type of event you're throwing. So we themed this out. It was February. February is really the month of Nunjabes, which is a Japanese hip hop producer who passed away not too long ago, as well as Jay Dilla, who is, father of, jazzy, hip hop, lo-fi. People have different names and genre. I'm not going to get into all that. But these two producers, so every February, people throw events inspired by their music, inspired by their lives. And so we wanted to also do something, because that's also the style of music that I do and I'm known for. So it seemed like a perfect marriage of putting together those inspirations and concepts. And I was able to rock with the band. Shouts out to my band. They killed it. It was great. So it was really good. So thinking about a theme, not just going out here and throwing any kind of show. Like I normally, even when I'm doing my showcases, I try to push it like, this is the brand, this is the theme, this is what you can expect. People want to know. People don't want to come out there, even if they spending 1,000 yen or 500, yen or 2,000 yen. They want to know what they're getting. So we was able to throw this at a dope venue that had food, that had a separate place. We had an all-age event, so the kids was able to come through with their family. So we made it family friendly. We pushed the fact that we were inspired by these artists, and they were going to get, if you like those kind of artists, you are going to like this type of show. And then the DJs spun music in those veins. So they spun a lot of jazz, a lot of hip hop, soul, mostly, some Japanese hip hop. They just kind of mix it up. The theme of the event, we called it Jazzy Handa. So we tied in the city with this, subgenre of hip hop. And overall, it worked. We kind of stuck to the niche. So sticking to your niche is good. It's good to do, when you're doing big events or anything that other people are doing, jumping in. But when you are organizing your own event, and that's, I live here, but still not my country, but I live here. And I recognize like there is people who really love jazz, they really love hip hop. There's people in between. So I thought that it was a good way to theme it out. So yeah, so think about those things when you are throwing events, if you move to a different country, or even if you're throwing events in your home country. So there's lots of similarities to where I threw events in the Bay Area, or when I set up the tour, when we were going on tour, or when I set up events in Ohio, that we've done theme events like Welcome to the Underground. That was a dope event that we did. And Metropolis back in the day, we've done tours, and really so a theme, your niche, building community, and then just really working with people in the area. So also I was able to connect with my man Mello from Jack Honto. He was a singer / rapper. He brought his man Easy out. The crew, they came, so they supported and represented from, a city that's not too far from Honda, down the peninsula, and then Ola Island, Moto, the homies. They came through and performed. And so we didn't have like a million acts. We had like a short 3 acts, 4 DJs. It was dope. So sometimes less is more. And I think that that's dope too. Like you don't have to do 15,000 acts on the bill and it not be dope. But yeah, man, so any questions, any comments, make sure y'all reach out. And yeah, man, like, subscribe. Check out episode 8 and 9 for more info on me being an educator and a parent in Japan. And, follow me on social media. Share this with people. Hopefully it helps. Peace.